Assyria, Persia, Rome, the Ottomans, the British, different continents, different centuries, and every one of them died at almost exactly the same age, 250 years. 10 human generations. For 3,000 years of recorded history, that number has barely moved. In 1976, a British general named John Glubb measured the lifespans of 11 empires, from ancient Assyria to the British Empire. He found the same 6 ages in every single one: pioneers, conquest, commerce, affluence, intellect, and finally, decadence. The cycle repeated regardless of geography, technology, or religion. Desert kingdoms and island navies aged the same way, on the same clock. Critics say his number is too neat, that empires simply fall somewhere between 1 century and 10. Fair enough, but the pattern underneath the number is much harder to dismiss, because we can watch it happen stage by stage. Baghdad, 10th century. Historians there complained about obsession with money, corrupt officials growing rich in office, and singers swaying the young. They were describing their own collapse from the inside, which raises the real question: if empires die on schedule, what's killing them? The answer is not the barbarians at the gate. It starts quietly, invisibly, years earlier, and it always starts with the money. In the 1st century, a Roman denarius was almost 4 grams of nearly pure silver, 95% or better, trusted across the known world. Then Rome's bills came due. Under Marcus Aurelius, the coin fell to 75% silver. Under Septimius Severus, roughly half. Caracalla tried a trick, a new coin stamped worth 2 denarii, containing the silver of 1.5. Prices noticed immediately. In 235, Emperor Maximinus doubled the army's pay. After him, no ruler survived long enough to ever balance the budget again. 26 emperors in 50 years. 1 every 2 years, on average. Most of them killed by their own soldiers or rivals. By the reign of Gallienus, the denarius held 5% silver or less, a bronze token wearing a thin silver disguise. People weren't fooled. Soldiers began refusing coins and demanding payment in goods. Whole regions slid quietly back toward barter. By one estimate, prices in the empire rose 15,000% between the years 200 and 300. Diocletian fought back with an imperial edict fixing maximum prices. It failed. By 301, 1 pound of gold cost 72,000 denarii. But here's what matters. Rome didn't debase the coin because it was dying. Staying alive was simply getting more expensive every year. In 1988, an archaeologist named Joseph Tainter asked why complex societies fall apart. His answer: societies are problem-solving machines, and they solve every problem the exact same way by adding another layer of complexity. A border threat: raise an army. A hungry city: granaries and irrigation. Disputes: courts, officials, taxes to pay for all of it. Early on, every new layer pays for itself many times over. Complexity is why empires get rich in the first place. But each additional layer costs more and returns less than the one before. Economists call it the law of diminishing returns. Eventually, a new layer is pure cost. The empire pays more every single year just to stand still. That was Rome's disease. And the trap has no exit, because complexity almost never gets voluntarily undone. No elite dismantles the system that makes it elite. So when the next crisis arrives, the answer is one more layer demanded from a population that has nothing left to give. Collapse, in Tainter's definition, is simply the correction, a rapid involuntary loss of complexity. The machine simplifies itself the hard way, but machines don't run themselves, people run them. And by this stage of the cycle, the people on top become the problem. The historian Peter Turchin has a name for that stage. He calls it elite overproduction, and he calls it the path to disintegration. Every wealthy empire manufactures elites, nobles, officers, officials, credentialed strivers, faster than it can manufacture positions of real power for them. The surplus doesn't quietly disappear. Ambitious people denied a seat at the table start competing for the table itself. Factions harden. Politics turns from managing the empire into capturing it. Internal conflict rises exactly when the treasury can least afford it. Look at Rome's 3rd century again. 26 emperors, and almost none died facing an external enemy. They were consumed by their own. Glubb saw the same final age everywhere. Defensiveness, frivolity, celebrity worship, and a retreat from duty into entertainment and grievance. Those 10th century Baghdad historians, deploring corrupt officials and distracted youth, they weren't moralizing, they were writing the autopsy in advance. From the outside, the empire still looks immense. The borders hold, the monuments gleam, the parades go on as scheduled, but inside it is hollow, too expensive to run, too divided to reform, and exactly one hard shock away from the cliff. Which brings us to the strangest part of the whole pattern. The ending, when it finally arrives fast. January 1st, 1991. The Soviet Union is the largest country on Earth, 1/6 of the planet's land, 290 million people. It has tens of thousands of nuclear weapons and an empire of satellite states. 12 months later, it does not exist. To understand it, rewind to September 13th, 1985, the day Saudi Arabia abandoned oil restraint and flooded the world market. Oil prices collapsed through 1986. Soviet oil earnings fell from around $15 billion a year towards $7 billion. That money had quietly held the empire together, importing nearly 1/5 of its grain and buying elite loyalty with Western goods. Moscow borrowed to fill the hole. Hard currency debt roughly doubled in 3 years and reached about $105 billion at the end. Then April 26, 1986, Chernobyl. The explosion was catastrophic. The cover-up destroyed whatever public trust was left. Russia's own reformers later said it plainly. The Soviet Union didn't die in December 91. It died the day the oil price broke. Every gear of the pattern turned at once. Costs devouring the surplus, elites fracturing into factions, and one external shock to finish it. The Soviets never saw it coming. But here's the darker lesson. One empire watched every stage arrive, and still couldn't stop it. Britain came out of the Second World War victorious, exhausted, and deep in debt to its own ally across the Atlantic. John Glubb, the man who found the 250-year clock, was a British officer watching his own empire enter its final age. In 1956, Britain invaded Egypt to keep the Suez Canal, the artery carrying 2/3 of Europe's oil. Washington and Moscow both condemned the operation, and the pressure worked. Within months, Britain backed down and withdrew its forces. An empire that had ruled 1/4 of humanity could no longer act for 1 week without permission. Everyone understood what that meant. So, read the pattern in order. Money debased under rising costs. Complexity that outgrows its returns. Too many princes. Too few thrones. Then a shock. A price. A plague. A war. And the fall that took generations to prepare completes itself in months. Glubb thought the clock ran on human nature itself, 10 generations is roughly how long it takes to forget what built everything, because empires are almost never murdered. They spend, split, and hollow themselves out first. The invasion only ever collects the body, and once it wasn't one empire that hollowed out. Around 1177 BC, every kingdom in the known world died together. That's next.